So we're coming now to work on the neck. I'm going to use oil here. So again, I've warmed the oil up in my hands. One important thing for the neck work is that we're never working into the front of the throat. There's too many structures there. It just feels like you're being strangled. So we avoid this whole area here. Coming up the side of the neck, we need to be careful because there's some major arteries here. If you feel a very strong pulsing under your finger, just move along. You're slightly in the wrong place. So just move along a little bit. All I'm doing here is I'm doing some warm-up work. And I'm really working from the edge of the shoulders up onto under the skull. We can do some little stretches there. There's a suboccipital release that we can do here that we've covered elsewhere. So you can add that in as part of your neck work, particularly again if somebody's having headaches. I'll show you that again now, just so we don't have to cross-reference fully for that. So here I am lifting the head and I'm making sure that I've got the weight of the client's head in my hands. I am right at the base of the skull and I'm in between the spine and the two big ropey bits that you'll feel at the back of your neck. So I've got one finger each side of the spine, but before the two big ropey bits. And I'm just pressing my fingers up into there. So at this stage, that's all I'm doing. I'm just holding, but I'm going to ask Margaret if she could just open her eyes and look to the ceiling for me. And then without moving her head, look down to her toes. And then back to the ceiling, up towards me, to the ceiling, to the left, and the ceiling, and to the right, and the ceiling. And then what I want to do is to stretch the muscles, but I'm going to do that just by raising Margaret's head. And again, ask Margaret just to let me take the full weight of her head there. So you can see that movement is I'm just lifting my hands up. And what I've done, I've stretched the muscles out, and then we're going to repeat the same movement. So Margaret, if you could look up to the ceiling for me, and then down to your toes, to the ceiling, and up to me, to the ceiling, and to the left, and the ceiling, and to the right, and the ceiling. And I'm just going to very gently place Margaret's head back on the table. Now, if you can hear a little bit of banging in the background, the wind has got up here, we're kind of in storm season. So unfortunately, we can't control the wind. So if you do hear any of that, I do apologise, but it's not in the room, it's just the wind outside. So you can see all of this, I'm warming up through here. And I'm working quite a few different muscles here. If you cross-reference into the book, there's all of the details of the anatomy and physiology there. But I'm going to start now to focus on the sternocleidomastoid. And to do that, I'm going to ask Margaret to turn her neck. And it's this big ropey muscle that comes down here. Now, what I'm not doing is working the front of it, because the front of it then goes into the throat. And you can see it's slow movements. And I'm following it from the top, right under the skull, right under the ear and the jaw, out. Where I'm feeling resistance, I'm just holding the pressure. Sometimes here you'll get kind of really tight areas. I'm moving now to the back of the muscle. If it's really tight, just hold it. And you'll feel it release under your finger. It's a little bit like, it's not a very technical description, but it's a little bit like pressing on a cherry tomato and then feeling it squish under your fingers. So when you feel that squish, you know that the muscle has released, that tension has released. You can also come this way up. I'm not putting a huge amount of pressure on, I'm just picking up the bottom of the muscle there and across. So you're working quite a complex muscle group. And of course, although our anatomy books, everything is very neat as to where everything is, in the human body, it's quite a different story. So where one person's muscle might, kind of start and end in a set place, the other person's might actually be in a slightly different place. It's still going to have the same origin and insertion points, but it could be in a slightly different place within the body. I'm then going to gently turn Margaret's head so that we can do the same on the other side. I'll just do this quickly because it won't really be in camera view. If you get a chance to join a dissection class and you're not too squeamish, it's definitely worth doing because you learn so much about the anatomy of the body. And one of the big things I took away from it was how the diagrams in the books really look nothing like the human body when you actually get in there. But also how fascinatingly complex it is. And it's really, that's what got me so interested in the role of fascia. I was dissecting a calf muscle and I took off 15 layers of what was like a very flimsy cling film or cling wrap. And that was the fascia. And once you got through that fascia, there was really no structural integrity left to the muscle. You could just, I didn't need a scalpel then to get into the muscle. I could just move it with my finger. But when it was intact with those 15 layers of fascia around it, it was a very, kind of a strong and structurally sound muscle. So if you ever get the chance to do that and you've got the stomach for it, it's definitely worth doing. You will learn so much and unlearn other things that you thought was the case. When your teacher becomes the cadaver, it all becomes very interesting. So I've picked up the levator scapula and I'm also starting to work the traps at the back. We'll pick this up more with the work on the back as well. There's a little bit of crunching there. Margaret's a little bit tight in here, so under my fingers it's kind of going bump, bump, bump. And Margaret can probably hear the crunching that's going on as well. In fact, the camera crew might be able to hear the crunching that's going on. So I'm not worried too much when I'm doing this neck work exactly which muscle I'm working on. I'm working on the whole of the neck muscles because they don't work as individual muscles. When it's really tight, I'm just holding it, waiting for it to release. And then I'm smoothing it off again. Now I am working up and down here, but I'm not putting a huge amount of pressure on. Any increase in pressure is downwards, so away from the skull towards the heart.